Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Brendan, and I'm here with John.
I'm John. Howdy.
So,
With a lag, I might have said I'm John after you said
it's possible.
I'm here with John. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. So, this episode is a special one because there's a potential for lag. So, we apologize in advance for any lagginess on our part, and we're going to go ahead anyway. So, in our last episode, we were talking about use and value. We looked into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Oh, actually, I don't know if this is going to be... I don't know if what I said is accurate because the last episode might be something else that I post, so we don't know. But in either case, the last things we worked on were Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, integrity, do it now, the get shit done principles. So these are principles for effective living, powerful living, stuff you can do in your life that makes a difference. And then we also nerded out on some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for sure. Delayed gratification, dealing with overwhelm. Then I think we have like first principles, depth of understanding, stand on your own 2 feet, communication, effective communication, making distinctions, principles of effective interaction. What kind of game are you in? And logic, and learn how to think. So basically, let's empower people some more. Now, in our empowerment-ness, don't know why the fuck I'm saying that. As we as we keep going, I was actually thinking about this after our last session, and it was the we're not telling you how to live thing. Now, I don't know where I learned that or how that comes up, but it seems like the right way to go in the sense that I am not responsible, we are not responsible for what you do in your life, and every motherfucker out there is telling people, okay, as far as I can tell, most people are going, here's the right thing to do, here's the 5 steps to success, here's the 10 things you need to do in your morning routine. Like I look at way too much Instagram and YouTube, and I will look at business people, and there's all this shit out there. Do you get what I'm saying when I say the shit? Like, you know what I'm talking about?
I think you mean that people are selling a bill of goods.
It's like, do my course for this. Like, you probably get them now because you're working on some different projects, but it's like, do you get the ads on YouTube about the guy that's like, are you tired of the grind? You tired of working 9 to 5 for the da-da-da? If you buy my system, see how I became financially free. It's like there's a million fucking charlatans out there selling a system for you to get rich or whatever. But what people who are stupid or uneducated, let's just put it that way, ignorant of the scamminess that's out there, is the motherfucker's getting rich selling you his system on how to get rich. That's how he's getting rich. And it's just, no. And there's a lot of bullshit. Something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And yeah, you're not doing that because this ain't a system.
Yeah.
But you're talking about principles and points that work very broadly and generally. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. And also it's like, so I want to ward people off of that because in my experience working with people here at workshops, it's interesting how I'm like talking to you, but not. I'm also talking to the way that I'm talking is like for other people. This
talking to me for others.
Yeah, it's like I'm talking to John, but for others, it's fucking weird because it's not quite as connected. But it's like I'm not trying to tell you how to fucking live. You decide how to live. What I'm trying to do, and I think by proxy John is joining me in this effort, is we want you to understand shit. then you do what you want with it. I don't give a fuck about 5
I second that
steps to
notion.
whatever. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, partner. Because it's like then you figure it the fuck out. I don't want to be responsible for like, oh, well, Brendan, I followed your 5 steps and I didn't get X, Y, and Z. It's like, I don't give a fuck what you get. If you want to make something, go make it. And I think that's aligned with like the principle of responsibility. You are responsible for your life. So that in mind, we are not proposing a way to live. Now, why do I have I have a beef with this way to live thing? I think it's like, I think my issues with it is it looks to me like it gets in the way of you taking it on, or it gets in the way of your growth and understanding, because people are then relying on some guru source or some source other than them in a sense, and they're not, like when I do workshops, you know, I get these questions, and it's weird because people ask these questions. I don't even think they know they're asking them like this, but they're asking questions which essentially boil down to, tell me how to live. Tell me the right thing to do. Tell me like that. Like, give me the 5 easy steps. And that, my beef with that, and I'm not too clear, is something like, no, that's asking me for some bullshit. Like, you're going to ask me for an answer that doesn't do you any good to understand what the fuck's going on. My job is to push you or lead you or guide you in a direction so then you discover something. That's the value, because then the discovery, nobody can take that from you. 5 easy steps, like tell me how to live. It's like, no, that's the easy way out. And it doesn't work for certain things. It doesn't work to get you the understanding. That, I think that's part of my beef. I don't know.
It's a lot less empowering and it's a lot less enlightening.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, don't get me started on enlightenment for sure. Right? Like, give me the answer to my true nature. Yeah, that's going to work. That's how you create religions and shit. And like, again, it doesn't. Anyway, I think I'm riffing a little bit because I just did a podcast with Peter and he was going off in these similar directions, which is like people wanting answers. And there is actually another domain that's not an answer. It's that insight domain, the breakthrough domain, or the domain where it's like you and I, when we weren't trained up at all, right? What was your experience of integrity?
What integrity?
Yeah. And then you run into somebody, thankfully, like a Ralston character or somebody who really knows some shit and they're really wanting to teach me, us, anybody. And they don't give out the answers. They, educate is like to draw out. See, it's not,
lead forth.
What's that?
To lead forth, to draw out. Yeah, there's a showing the way, but it's not.
You show the door, but only you can walk through the damn thing, kind of thing. See, it's like this is why I think I appreciate like some of the business guys that I listen to. They say it straight, and they're the ones I can tell they're not charlatans in a sense, because it's like they're like, no, dude, all these other people, no, that's bullshit. And why? Because they've built businesses, they show it, and then they give the straight dope about what it's like. They're like, it's hard. There's no overnight success. You're going to be in fucking pain. You're going to be struggling. It's going to be a real, it's going to take longer than you want. You're not going to know what you're doing. And I'm like, thank you.
That sounds very familiar.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
So as you're talking, it has me wondering, like, archetypally, is that a word? Archetypically, or or conceptually, like, people can live in so many different ways. And if you're coming from nothing, or if you're just coming from like, all right, here's existence, then so many different ways could be lived. And it's sort of like, okay, well, pick one, whatever, you choose. And then what I'm offering you here is not telling you which way is going to be the thing for you. That's for you, that's between you and you, or you and reality, or so, or something.
Yeah.
But what I'm offering, just these are just principles of effectiveness should you go away where effectiveness is important. Maybe you go away where effectiveness isn't important, like maybe into the world of like addiction or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you go that route, you don't need to be that effective, because if addiction just kind of can fall on your ass. You don't need to work for it. It can
Well,
happen. Oh, go ahead.
well, yeah.
Change my
Well,
mind.
no. Not. I'm not changing your mind. I'm with you. I wanted to add some humor. It's like have you seen the meme out there where it's like, if a crackhead is fiending for crack, that motherfucker is gonna get up and work and make sure that they find the money for that crack. Are you
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
let a
yeah.
crackhead outwork you today?
Yeah, it's true. Some bad or unhealthy motivations can be the fuel for getting shit done to a certain
And
level.
they have to be effective at getting the crack.
Yeah, but they're not going to build anything memorable that way. Their efforts will only go towards scoring enough cash to get the
Yes.
crack, and
Yeah.
yeah, and it'll be a downward spiral kind of deal.
Yeah.
And
And the principle, I wanted to add real briefly that the principle of effectiveness doesn't care whether you are getting crack or building something great.
yeah,
It's just being
and
effective at
and
whatever.
and and I can say also, like, from my personal perspective, I do care the path that people live. I don't recommend addiction to crack. Uh,
Yeah, neither do I.
or in a lot of things, I don't recommend that way. I wouldn't recommend that to my child or myself, so I wouldn't recommend that to other people. But that's not to say that there aren't many, many ways to live.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember being in a world where how I live, like, for me, getting conscious of what's ultimately true, some things come to light as true. One of those things is there is no right way to live. Now, there are, so my perspective used to be, oh, there's like a right way to live. I should live a certain way. And I still do have like shoulds and shouldn'ts and stuff like that, but that's my own stuff. And then but before it was like, oh no, life needs to go down a certain path.
Hmm.
And now I'm like, well, no, any path will do. Doesn't matter. You could be a mass murderer, you could be a saint. It doesn't matter. Like it literally does not matter. And that doesn't mean that there aren't healthier ways to live and less healthy, more powerful ways and less powerful ways, good ways and bad ways, more effective ways and less effective ways. And then it becomes more, which way do I want? Do I want the powerful way? Cool. Or like, say you out there, like, do you want personal power and effectiveness? Good. Now, what's interesting about that is there's laws to that shit.
Hmm.
Like, there's rules to reality. You see how my body keeps being a body? I mean, you know this. Like,
Hmm.
there's laws. We're
Hmm.
on a planet with gravity. We don't just float. For example, that's like laws of what governs objects. There's also laws that govern power.
Hmm.
See, one of those for people is integrity.
Hmm.
And through this understanding, then you can actually have the power, perhaps. So, not sure why I was telling you all this. This is a bit of a preamble. I'm mainly saying, not trying to tell you how to live, but here's some good shit that might be useful. Yeah, and then you decide whether you want to take it on. Something like that. Did we deal with delayed gratification?
We talked about delayed gratification for sure, which
Okay.
definitely would preclude things like addiction to crack.
Yes. Right. That's I want instant gratification, and then. What about dealing with overwhelm?
I don't think we really touched on that.
No. Okay.
Uh,
Overwhelm. Overwhelm. That happens. What is that?
I think there's overwhelm and then there's overwhelm. There's there's different degrees of overwhelm.
Yeah.
There's overwhelm to essentially it's pressure on a system to where that system starts coming apart, and you can overwhelm a system to where it comes apart, especially like a living system, to where it comes apart uh, to where if it's allowed some time to heal, it will regenerate and come back stronger, or it taps into additional resources that it didn't know that it had access to, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And then there's overwhelm at levels which are dangerous, which will actually compromise or destroy the system over time or
Mm.
quickly, depending on what we're talking about. So you could have like conceptual, emotional overwhelm. You can also have physical overwhelm, and you can have combinations.
Yep. Yep. Like you can overwhelm, like a wave could overwhelm me in the ocean and just I lose control.
Yeah, and bye bye.
Could say it
Yeah.
that way, or
If
you
you get
know,
overwhelmed by a tiger, that's probably the end.
probably this is the end. My only friend. The end.
So overwhelm is not necessarily always a bad thing, uh, but I think prolonged overwhelm without respite would be unhealthy for anyone. And what is real overwhelm versus what's your conception of, oh, I'm overwhelmed? Those are two different things.
Yeah, and I think probably we could narrow focus on what people are going to hear when they say that. When we say that is overwhelm is like when I'm overloaded, mental, emotionally, probably.
Hmm.
See, it's like or dealing with pressure and stuff like that. It's because I recently I talked to a couple Major League Baseball players recently, so I got some connections there, and that is one of the things that they deal with on a regular basis is like pressure.
Mm.
And then at some point they could get overwhelmed by the pressure. But I suspect that they don't look into the existential source of the pressure. For example, like, I mean, it's like I went through some challenges at one point and I realized it's like I was getting overwhelmed by people, say. But that was because I was making people a thing in my head that I was angry at or something.
Mm.
You see, it's like, so then I might say, well, people are overwhelming me, but yeah, but what's a people? Now, I don't think people investigate. I don't think people, like you think there's people out there. I have yet to find one. Like the real location of a people. Um,
Mm.
yeah, or like there's others here. Uh, Depending on what people are, might determine how you relate to people, and people is a huge factor. So like one thing I might do is, and I don't know why I'm going down this road, it's sort of like feels like it might be too advanced, but something like recognizing what's in your experience. If people are overwhelming, it might be useful to get what people are.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then like you find out existent like, oh, people are like where are people? See, like if you're alone, people is a thought. And you can have that thought located somewhere, for example. And instead of locating it in your head, why don't you locate it out there outside your body where there's other bodies around? Put it out there. And for example, that's like one thing I did because I realized I was upset with people, right? And then I went, wait a minute, because I was alone in my shack. Like,
Mm.
I'm thinking people in here. There's no
Mm.
people in there. Where they're not in your head. So at least put them out somewhere else. And voila, a whole bunch of pain went away. But I think so. I feel like I'm rambling, but I think one of the things that happened for me during that time was I did so much of that mental shit that my nervous system started to fry out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that you could call like overwhelm. You're like overloading the system. And I realized, wait a minute, my nervous system can't take that much
Mm-hmm.
of that. So I had to control my mind, ergo, stop thinking dumb shit in my mind so that my nervous system's not frazzled all the time.
And I think that you can get away with that at a younger age than you can as you get older because physically your nervous system, your body is more robust.
Mm.
And so you can run it on, less sleep and more coffee and more stress, and it'll keep on ticking. But then you start getting into your 40s and you're doing the same dog and pony show, which is really just a self activity, me, others, I'm mad at them, they're the problem, I'm the victim, all that theater that goes on.
Theater.
Yeah, well,
That's
it is.
great.
It's a
It
it's
is.
a
It's,
it's a fucking show that I play for myself to
it's
be
a
the
shit show. Keep
the
going. Keep going.
hero in my own story,
Yeah.
or the villain, or the whatever, the victim. And on and on it goes. That's an activity that it's like spinning up a story. It's spinning up a fucking self narrative. It gets really, really out of control. And it's stressful as hell for the body because the body can't tell the difference, as far as I can figure, between conceptual stress and physical stress. And the
Yeah.
thing about physical stress is they go away usually. But ongoing mental activity, even if it's not fully conscious, it's uncognized, continues ad nauseum, and the body is just getting stressed out by this shit. And therefore, you're gonna feel fucking overwhelmed if you're doing that kind of shit. And as you get older, it'll get worse, and you can combat it with like various means. But the real deal is to just recognize what you're doing and cut it out,
Yeah.
lay off.
Yeah, like hey, don't do that. And it's interesting because as I was working on some of this stuff, it's like I remembered because I was like, what's all these feelings? Because I didn't understand what all this emotional shit was. It's like, well, what do you mean? How come you didn't understand? Yeah, when you take away psychology out of the mix, like the psychological perspective and narrative about what psychology is and what it all means, and like take that away, I'm just left with a feeling I don't understand. And so now we're getting like existential with it as best I could. And I started to notice some things like I would be like, okay. I'd like watch my mind careful, like watch my experience very, very carefully. And I would wake up in the morning and I would be at peace, like everything was good. And then something would happen and my body would go, like emotional, But I saw for like 2 seconds. You see, this is when I was struggling, right? I'm kind of going back and forth between the shit and out of the shit. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, this is bullshit because when I cracked my eyes open, I was calm, I was peaceful, I felt fine.
Mm.
Nothing was changing. And then, ow. So I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So I started to notice there was something going on.
But I think in common vernacular, there's that word triggered. You triggered me, uh, but I think there's a certain it's probably overused tremendously. But
And
I
likely
think
misunderstood.
well, I think that I'm doing a lot of uh, coding lately,
Yeah.
um, and I think that people have programs running all the time. And these are conceptual programs, but they're also, interwoven or as if structured on top of the biology. And it's the biology which is the what do you call it? The fucking substrate. That's a word. The substrate of all this shit.
Hmm.
And just like we were testing for the lag time, and I said 1, 2, 3.
4.
You're right. There's a little lag time there. Why do you say 4, or if I say up and
Sideways.
okay, there you go. So whatever you do, but you have that immediate
Yeah,
response. Well, what
I
is
had it
that?
down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What is that? So by the same token, you can see something, experience something, and it triggers call it a program that's going to run. It's like you execute the program and it runs.
Yeah,
So I see somebody doing the kind of behavior that, I'm conditioned not to like, yada yada, and without even any conscious thought, I see it and I'm pissed, or something reminds me of a condition in
yeah,
my life,
and you,
and because I've suddenly reminded of it, it overwhelms, and I go through or it triggers, and then I go through that particular program.
yeah, and it's fascinating to watch. Like a couple things I've seen is like something will happen, and then I see in my mind like several associations,
Hmm.
like that thing, and I'm like the is like I don't know. I see a young girl, like a 2 year old toddler running around, and then boom, memory, my childhood, my parents growing up, what that was like, like, but
Yeah,
fast. And I was
yeah.
like, so then that associating is like, and the experience of associating is like these images are connecting quickly.
Mhm.
I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? See, it seems like it's not me.
Well, it's like it's
It's very
not.
automatic.
It is very automatic, and I would say it is automatic, but
Yes.
that doesn't mean that you can't get down in there and start reprogramming or
Reprogramming.
dialing back if you get down deep into it. And some
Yeah.
things are a lot quicker and easier than others.
Yeah. And then there's some deep shit. And then there's even other domains. And what I mean by that is like the world that you and I share of this social life world that's includes language. There's the 2 year old version, which has very none of this. I mean, like minimal, minuscule amounts, if at all. And it's a totally different world that's all about like vision and feeling with no words about it.
Mm,
Yet still understanding this good, that not good, but very primal. And
mhm,
and I think when I've been working on some of the more deep stuff, I have to be open to these other domains. Like, oh, wait a minute, reality's not going to look the same as what I think, what I share now. And that takes I mean, for me, it's taken a concerted effort when I've had to confront some of that stuff
mm,
to get way down. I like have to get down, back down to the source of my mind.
mm.
And it usually, most people don't, they hang with like when you say triggers, um, the comeback for that, the Ralstonian comeback's like, well, who put the fucking trigger there? Hello, you know that
Yeah,
trigger didn't. You didn't. That trigger didn't get there all by itself. You put it there. No, no,
yeah.
no. Society put it there. But they see, then we run into the conundrum. Yeah, well, what's a society and where is it and how does society? What is that?
Well, whether or not you put it there is really kind of irrelevant. You certainly had whether you were conscious of it or not, you had a role to play
Yes.
in its inception and its current existence. And you can get into, well, this is getting very conceptual. Hmm. You know, my uh my partner, she told me a couple of uh, weeks ago. She said, you don't give the same kind of emotional support to your son that you give to me.
Hmm.
And I was like, that hit. And I realized that I have like a mode of uh, of care for my son that's it's based on care, but it's a very fearful kind of care.
Hmm.
And it's in the style of uh, what my stepfather did to me. And I say like it's in the style, it's in the motif.
Yeah.
It's like it's my own way, but it's like sort of me channeling him.
I do stuff like what my dad did.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I've been noticed.
Now,
And I've got a Ralston, so I've got like a couple.
right, right, right. And so like I was like, you know, most of that isn't useful and it doesn't feel good,
Mm.
but I get caught up in it and I don't really appreciate it and she doesn't and my son doesn't.
Mm.
So it brought some, yeah, that's maybe like a more real example of feeling that, recognizing it, and it's sort of difficult to put into words because it's kind of an adoption of a character, or like you learn a certain style or something, and a
Yeah, like a
style could be
mode
like
of.
a, yeah, and it could be a style could be anything. It could be like a way of walking and talking and kind of holding yourself, relating to the world, considering others, considering yourself, and even the kind of thoughts and feelings that um you create. It's a show, but you
Yeah,
really get into it, and that's something that I was doing to some extent, and it's still there. Like I can still access that.
sure.
I learned it, I had it, I was exposed to it for years. It was my environment, you could say, for a while.
Yeah,
So I know it well and I can recreate it, but am I responsible for having had been in that environment? No. Like I didn't have any fucking choice.
right.
Am I inspired? Am I responsible for having learned it? I, I mean, who cares? But I did. So that means if I learned it, then I can also, to a degree, I could unlearn it,
Sure.
and I'm not have to erase it to just have more facility with it. It's like, okay, it's mine. I learned that. Maybe there are some occasions that call for a little bit,
Yeah,
you know, but
sure.
I don't have to be like owned by that shit.
Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And also about and then we'll get back on track here because we were looking at overwhelm, and I think we rabbit holed way down into into this, which is good.
Well, overwhelm could be a mode of being that you have adopted towards life. And a lot of people do that where they just take on a character of being fucking stressed out all the time.
Or they could have. I wanted to share this earlier. Like some programs, you can have one program that runs counter to another program in your own person system, if you will, whatever your experience. I should find the right mate, but I should protect myself at all costs. So if I find the right mate and starts to get vulnerable, I get scared shitless and run. And like they don't work well together. How do you do both of those at once? That sounds like a recipe for some overwhelm. It's like one of those has got to go here.
And a series of relationships that end uh, unwell.
Yeah, that's going to be the result of that. And many more. I'm just saying like that's one example. That is also a possibility. Or like I remember waiting tables in Vermont years and years ago, and there's this kid who he was young, like a younger, like little teenage, like preteen
Yeah.
kid, and a fly would come and land on the table, and he couldn't handle it. Like there was a fly. He was eating dinner with his mom or lunch with his mom outside, and there was a fly, and the fly would go near his food, and it just too much.
I think there's certain kinds of reactions, fears, and uh, yeah, behavior that looks like it ain't much fun. That you can tell, it's easy to tell that it's programmed in if you've got a little experience with boxing, strangely enough.
Mm-hmm.
If you do the kind of boxing that you do and excel at, you get very used to being in a very like slowed down time kind of experience where you're really, really with it moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. And you can do this without that, but it cues you in and you can watch people process stuff and then realize it and then do something about it. And
Sure.
what seems to them like an immediate reaction, you can actually watch it happening. They
It's like,
build up and activate something and they had lots of time to go another way. And I'm talking about like jumping in terror at a dog or something like that. That,
yeah.
you know, or suddenly playing the victim. People can build stuff up in their
Right. And
minds.
then do it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And to them it might seem instant, but if you're used to being in that not in that non-linguistic world, you see these things happen
Yeah.
because you have to be operating there. And so you can watch it unfold.
Yeah.
And it's definitely built. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, or I was thinking about I remember my sister's kid when he was really young, which holy shit, he's like getting out of high school now, and I'm like, what the fuck happened? Um
Getting
he's getting
older.
old. Everybody's getting older, motherfuckers. But he fell down and she panicked, and I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. And then he bonked his head or something like that. And then he looks to mom to be like, how should I act with this, mom? And mom's like, ah! And then the kid's like, ah! It's like, mom,
Yeah.
no, he's
Yeah.
fucking, leave him alone. No. Because the kid is taking cues like, how do I be here? And
Yeah.
then parents are freaking out.
Yeah.
What do you think that kid's gonna do? Or like, I've got a friend here, mutual acquaintance, mutual friends of mine, and it's I don't well, nah, she probably wouldn't listen to this podcast, but it's like her son's getting fucked up. He's already in therapy, which I wholeheartedly disagree with. The kid's got anxiety.
Mm.
And I can see that mom is constantly tiptoeing around his anxiety, which in my mind, I'm like, you are reaffirming to him that he's fucked up and anxious by you being scared of him being anxious. The kid's fucked. I'm like, train his ass up. Teach him how to control the fear.
Yeah.
Or like build him up. But I don't think it's going to happen.
So efficacy, if you're getting overwhelmed a lot, check out the real source of your overwhelm. Is it something that's actually coming from outside of you? Is it something that's really environmental? Or is it something that you're doing? And check it out in the way you relate to it.
Yeah, and I wanted to add from the martial world, like this is where I think like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu probably is my first pick. Cheng Shin for sure, because we actually investigate being calm, then maybe boxing or just like the fighting stuff. Because when I'm doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like in that world, they talk about spazzy white belts or whatever, but it's like, yeah, calm works. And it's like that's better when somebody's trying to kick your ass than when not. Than like if you do the other thing. And I think it just by nature of like if I want to actually get good at say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I have to learn to If somebody's going to hurt me, what do? Chill. Get into fight. I've seen guys like get into fight mode. Like they're going to start to grapple. They're just like, all right, yeah. Like their mind changes. They settle down. And it's to be able to control, in Cheng Xin, control your mind. And then we study again and again and again in higher stress situations. Somebody's trying to push me or throw me down or strike me. Did my mind panic? Did I shut down? Did I get overwhelmed? And to actually control the overwhelm. So it's like, no. Shit's gone crazy, but I'm not going there because that doesn't work. And I don't know other places that intentionally train that other than these two. But like, I would recommend that. I think fighting arts are good for that. Yeah, you can't control the external circumstances, but you can control your mind. See, and then to actually work on that so that then you are unoverwhelmable. Why not that? And that's maybe people don't even know, probably a lot of people don't even know that's possible. But I think that's useful. Like the people that I see go through the fire of doing a bunch of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they tend to be chill. They're a little more relaxed. Or like Peter's got a story about seeing some professional boxers, and I've seen a lot of professional fighters. You go to shake their hand, it's like they're gentle. Hey, what's up, man? It's like, yeah, why are they so chill? Because they deal with violence. They don't need to like bravado. They're like, I'm good. See, it's sort of a funny thing.
Yeah.
So, overwhelm. How to deal with it?
Be calm.
Chill. Yeah, calm yourself down. Remain calm. And then in terms of like life stuff, I would say, here's my 5 easy steps. Stop doing that. Or discover if you can't stop doing it, then there's something that you're missing about your own experience that you could discover, like say these conflicting programs or certain relationships to life or others or authority even, where if somebody says something and you're highly triggered, that means you've got a trigger. Maybe you could investigate the trigger itself and see if you can dismantle it so then you can remain calm. You could align with calm as a principle, and then anything that shows up in your experience that's not that has to go, and now you have plenty of work to do. And you allow calm to exist in the midst of uncontrollable situations.
I think I missed something here. I think you know what? All the stuff that I was talking about physical overwhelm, like, yeah, there are people who can be in extremely dangerous, violent situations who remain calm.
Yeah.
They're not overwhelmed.
No.
So the overwhelm, whatever it is, whatever your external circumstances are, the overwhelm is something that you're doing. Maybe it's an unconscious process that started when you were 2, that you're just, doing again and again and again and again. And maybe it's something you've learned more recently, and maybe it's not something you're conscious of, but it's something you're doing.
Yeah.
It's an activity.
Yeah. Or like, have you seen the movie Ad Astra with Brad Pitt?
No.
Like it's in, you might like it actually. Check it out. So at the beginning of the movie, he's climbed up this really tall tower, and then that's like off of planet Earth and then up into space. Even it's that tall, and something's going on with the tower, and you see like all hell breaks loose, and he's just like calm. You can hear him breathing. He's like, okay, and like all hell's broken loose, but he's chill. So it's like, there's that, or, I don't know, you've been in a car crash, or like sometimes people, they get in these extreme environments and then they switch to calm somehow. Or like time slows down and they're like, I saw like that piece of glass is going in my eye, and you just know what to do. You're not thinking. There's your problem right there. It's like switch into, or the fighters, they switch into a full feeling mode. There's no like concern for the future. It's just this here now. Yeah.
So what else?
Yes. Yes. 69 no's and 1 yes means yes.
Yes.
Yeah. First, principles and depth of understanding, and then we should wrap this up actually well after this one.
That sounds like a whole topic in and of itself.
It is a whole topic. Is there anything else that we can talk about? I mean, I'm sure there is. But...
Well, Apple is coming out with a new smart car, which is pretty cool. Yeah. But I don't know about buying a car without windows, so I'm gonna have to think about that.
Nice.
And on it goes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can't have windows in that Apple car.
Nope.
Be counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, we went on. So, I think
this one is about being calm. This episode was about being calm.
Yeah.
Don't be overwhelmed.
Don't get overwhelmed. Just don't do that. And then, so it's like, yeah, because people, they search for the answers to this stuff. And in the spirit of this work, it's like the answer is already available. This is another thing, like the consciousness or the awareness that you seek, that you're seeking, is right here. It is in your the answers to your experience are in your experience now. The answers to all the challenges that you face are available right now, as if in your experience or founding your experience, it's already available. You know, like that kind of stuff is already available. And even the insights and the breakthroughs are available. Like, I don't know, Archimedes, the insight and the breakthrough is available, but he's working on it. You know, the crown and how does the copper and the gold mix, and how do I know if it's mixed or not? So he works on it. Or like your project you're talking about, it's like you're working on this thing, or like I'm working on plumbing and I'm trying to, like, I don't know. How does it go? See, but what am I searching for the answer? Somehow I'm looking for an understanding. Like, where does that happen though? Always in my experience. It doesn't happen somewhere else. You know, and at some point there's an insight which seems to be something that comes as if from outside my experience into my experience. Oh, and then I have a new experience. See, but it's like the part, right. People still think they are a part of their experience. Like, so then they think it comes to them, but they don't realize like the them is also dependent on others. It comes from the not you part of your experience. Like, you see, like, oh, an insight came to me. Came to who exactly?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
From the
and then we also live like we're separate, right? Like you're over there, I'm over here, as if there's a you and a me, not realizing the truth of whatever the truth is about that. See, like, what are we?
Yeah.
There's more going on than just this perceptive experience that is completely dominated by concepts and programming. There's more than this.
Yeah. So check it out.
Yeah. Check it out.
Where is that? I'll look it up. I'm looking up something.
Cool. John is looking up something.
It's a cool yeah, Alan Becker. Alan Becker.
Alan Becker.
We should put this up. Alan, um, it's a really fun YouTube video, and basically it's from the perspective of physics, 90% of which or more I don't really get. But there's something about this this video that's very much just like, here are the principles from a physical principles
Yeah.
that allow for things to be.
Oh,
And it's done in this really cute, fun animation way. Are you seeing it?
which
Are
what's
you
the
looking it up?
video called? Yeah.
Alan Becker,
Well, I already found his, but
Alanbeckerer.
yeah, which
Animation versus physics.
oh, okay. Oh yeah. 36 million views. Holy shit. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I can check it.
Yeah.
Alan Becker.
And I think that that does a really good job of showing people like, all right, this is the stuff that works. This is the stuff that makes the stuff that you see exist at all.
Right.
And it's not suggesting a way to live at all, but it's sort of like, but if you wanted to do X, Y, or Z, if you ignore this stuff, you do it at your peril. If you
Right.
understand this stuff and realize this stuff and are really operating in alignment with these things, then it will greatly empower your endeavors and you'll find out what's really possible.
Yeah.
You know, you'll be on the cutting edge, so to speak, of actually investigating this whatever this is. And I think that that place of real investigation, of real, you know, looking into reality for yourself in whatever mode you want to do that in whatever domain you want to do that in, is, you know, a very exciting place, a very interesting place to be. So does that sound like I'm suggesting a way to live? Maybe, you know, but check it out or
Something to
don't.
take a
But
look
if you,
at.
something to take a look at. If you're doing this, if you're listening on, you're probably already looking into that.
Yeah, if you've made
So,
it this far in the fucking podcast,
yeah, definitely.
you're gonna
Jesus
be
Christ.
interested. Weirdos out there, it's great. It makes me think, yeah, like first principles, even like when you know Elon Musk, as much as he appears to have a lot of foibles to me. He does engineering very well, and he said, you know, he says something called first principles, but and then I'm like, well, what is first principles? It's like, well, you start with the stuff that you can't mess with, for example, like time, space, you know, um, action, perhaps, you know, depending on what it is you're doing. It's like there are things that allow for the operation of things, like gravity. If you're in martial arts, you don't take gravity into account, huh? You don't take the ground into account, huh? Like these are things that you cannot mess. You don't take 3D space into account. These are things that you can't mess with. If you don't take awareness into account and what that is, perception and what that is, see, these things make a huge difference. Or like if you're going to build a rocket, you have to adhere to the principles that allow for rockets to move. If you're going to build an airplane, you have to, like, there's principles that allow for the airplane to fly. You can't build whatever you want. You have to go with the principles.
Yeah.
Same with like discovering what's true. You have to go for what's true.
And the principles don't exist because I say they do, or or you
Anybody.
say they do, or
Right. It's not a
anybody says
belief.
they do.
Yeah.
It's not about what some authority is telling you.
Yeah. It's just it's the stuff you cannot fuck with. It's like you can't. Yeah. And then so you can discover what that stuff is. And if you want to be more effective at anything, it's useful to discover the principles that allow for that thing to exist, as far as I can tell. Yeah.
Come do a workshop.
Yeah. Come do a workshop. Or join our school community. We do have a school community out there. skool.com/the consciousness path. I can link that. We're doing some interesting stuff over there. Weekly newsletter. Check it out. But definitely come to a workshop if you're interested in consciousness work. Blah blah. You know the drill. Tell your friends. We'll stop it there. This has been another effectiveness podcast, or at least something useful and potentially valuable. But you have to go do it. That's the hard part. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.